Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 4 premiere of Superman and Lois. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, knew this was going to be a rough season premiere considering how things ended. I've avoided everything I can to not see even a smidge of what this season has in store for us, but yeah. So already kind of expecting things to be rough, but it's like they decided they want to twist the knife. Kind of like the end and the beginning. Is it the end of the beginning or end and the beginning? I can't remember. The title of the episode, something like that. Obviously, I'll know when I'm actually uploading this. But either way, just twisting the knife in just because it's like kind of at the end of Superman's life. We're kind of seeing like the beginning. Once again, they play. I love that they do have that time frame where they get to play around with the whole that little montage we got at the beginning. We get that moment where Lois is reflecting on after the news of Clark telling her that he's Superman, and it's just she's like, why now? And it's like, yeah, because I'm in love with you, so in love with you, I never thought that'd be possible. And it's like, okay, so when I said that I was kind of into you, it's like, yeah, I kind of heard that, and it's like, well, what about the fact is that, I called you dorky? He's like, I can't be dorky sometimes. And then they proceeded to do their thing, which I love, because at first he's kind of like, whoa. I was like, oh, I thought his reservation was going to be, because she's like, what, doing it in your childhood home or something like that? No, his reservation is that he's a virgin. I was like, whoa. Wow, Lois was your first. That's interesting. Because I'm trying to remember, Lana and him dated in this continuity. Doesn't mean they had sex, but I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Which also, it's actually kind of a cool thing. I don't know, kind of being like, oh yeah, Lois is his first time. I just thought that was just interesting. Yeah, first time with the woman you spend the rest of your life with is kind of, I don't know, just in totality, I think that's just so interesting. But like I said, balancing that with just everything, because Lois is getting hit on all emotional fronts. She doesn't know where her dad is. Jordan's trying to find him but can't, because it's just I'm sure for him it's just he's kind of an emotional wreck right now, because he's right, you're worried about dad because Clark's fighting that thing and you're just no one knows what's going on that front. Plus you're trying to find your grandfather, and the only one who can obviously Lois is trying to stay strong because she's like, I gotta believe Clark's gonna come back, but even there's a part of her afraid that he won't, because even Jordan was like, you saw that look on Dad's face. He's like, Dad was scared. I've never seen him that way before. There's a part of him that didn't think he could beat this thing. That's why he didn't want any of us mixed up in this, because he was talking about how the fact is that Jonathan is like, how do you always manage to keep your heart so calm? He's like, yeah, I just try not to give into the fear. And it's that is an interesting element of. I think that's just a fascinating detail, and I'm curious if there's going to be more to that or not. But it's just that the fact is that I guess he's kind of taking after Lois more in that regard, of just pulling from both of his parents in that regard of not giving into their fear, but especially as a human trying not to give into your fear. I'm sure a lot of that comes from his mom, but. It's just kind of because he's trying not to let the fear get to him, but even he's concerned. At the very least, he's trying his hardest and not to show, and he's trying to keep Jordan focused. It's okay, because Jordan's beating himself up. First and foremost, I can't do anything to help Dad. At the bare minimum, I should be able to do, as Superboy, I should be able to do something to help out Grandpa. But it's well, I don't know where he is, and I'm the one that set him up on that dating app, so it's on me that this happened. But Jonathan's like, no, it's not your fault. Grandpa was happy as he's ever been. Grandpa will die if you keep focusing. So just come eat. Maybe it'll help you focus. It's beating yourself up about that right now is not doing anyone any good, because you're wasting more time. We could be using help on find Grandpa, having a pity party for yourself in this moment. Then we also have Lex staying in a hotel right across the street from the Gazette. It's just man, that man is obsessed. Well, to be fair, no one's never called Lex Luthor not obsessed. He can be obsessive. He has his vision. He has what he wants in front of him, and he's going after it. And that's crushing Lois, because he's like, oh, I tried to tell you to back away, quit, retire from being a reporter, but no. It's that's the effed up thing. It's like he's punishing her for a crime. Like you went to prison for a crime. Yes, you didn't commit, but it's also a which in general like anyone would be angry under because I went to prison for something I didn't do. But that's the problem. Like you didn't do this specific crime, but you are a villain. You are a terrible person. You've done terrible stuff. It's just this one thing that you went down for just happened to not be the one thing, and he's because. Once again, Lex is so egotistical and maniacal that he would never see fault in himself. He would never recognize, oh, I've done terrible stuff, because he would never view it that way. Because it's one thing I've been accused of. This is the one terrible thing I've been accused of, and I actually didn't do it. But it's like everything else is just, because no one's the villain of their own story. And I'm sure he views Lois like that. He's like, oh, you don't think you're the villain. You don't think you're the bad guy, but you are the bad guy. I'm the good guy in this story. I often Lex's perspective when it comes to Superman and everything, but especially because he's so upset because it's just like for him Lois gets to be happy and been for this past 17 years got to live a happy life, had the family and everything. Well, he lost everything. The one person, he even says later on, the one person, my mother didn't love me, my ex-wife didn't love me, but my daughter, she did. And he blames Lois for Lois. It's like a child finding out who their parent really is, and maybe she heard the rumors about who her dad was, but never believed him until this Moxie thing, and that made her go like, "Oh, everything about my dad is true." Who knows? We'll have to wait to see, but. He's all about destroying Lois's life. It's like, right, you don't have Superman to protect you. You don't have Sam to protect you. And it's like, I don't need them to protect me. I'm not scared of you. And he's like, oh, but you will be. He's like, the fact of the matter is, being in prison, being like locked up like that for so long, it forges something new in you. You learn how to kind of understand that, like, that solitude. That he's almost going like, oh, like you'll learn. You kind of like, what will you be forged? What will you be? Will you be forged from tougher stuff afterwards? Like I came out stronger on the other side. Will you, or will you break? Type of situation. Especially because of the whole, like, once again, the flashbacks of like this has been a long heated battle between Lois and Clark versus Lex, because it's like, right, there was that flashback of him getting attacked, and it's like, yeah, it was Inner Gang and some other gangs like having kryptonite weapons. It's like it had to be Lex that did that, which I even love that Lex thinks like the Moxie thing. He was like, do not publish that. I didn't do it. That's not my voice. He's like, no, the reason why you're doing this, you've always had it out for me because you're trying to protect your superpowered boy, that being Superman. And it's like, she's like, this isn't about him, but it's like on some level it is, because you cannot separate like personal, like, yes, Lex is a bad guy, firsthand he's a bad guy. It's just like, sadly, you can't prove it. You also can't prove that he's responsible for the thing, Doomsday, that Clark is currently fighting. So yeah, I'm sure as a wife, as a reporter, it's just frustrating that there's so little you can do. All she can do is publish that article about Superman being in peril. Like, that's all she can do. And I'm sure that's so frustrating when it's like your husband is like the centerfold of that, like him fighting something that could kill him. Is in the process of beating the ever-living piss out of him right now. He's never been this outmatched before. I mean, once again, he's going up against something that can't die, just keeps adapting to everything he or anyone else throws at him. Like I was kind of talking about earlier, it's just like, it's not just Lois, like the entire family is feeling that frustration. Hell, even Sam under his circumstances is feeling the frustration of, I can't believe I let my guard down and I fell for this guy. Was anything about you real, Gretchen? Even though Gretchen's not a real name, which I'm like, is she supposed to be Mercy? Because there's Otis, and I'm like, is she supposed to be Mercy? Or is Yvonne Chapman's character, he called her Amanda, but I'm like, is that supposed to be Mercy? Which I was like, I think she's supposed to be Mercy. I don't want to look it up and know, but because he called her Amanda, if I believe correctly. But I was like, I didn't know that was her name. Like, either Mercy's a nickname or maybe that's her middle name or something like that. But I assume she's playing Mercy Graves. Because Because I was wondering like who Gretchen is then. Not unless she's supposed to be like. I was about to say it was like not unless she's supposed to be like a Eve Tessmacher or something, but I wouldn't think so. I I don't. So I'm sorry. I feel so stupid, but I'm like, I don't know. Also, really quickly, I completely forgot Yvonne Chapman was going to be in this. I remember like a while back finding out like, oh, she's going to be in this season. I just don't remember what character they said. I could easily look it up, but I'm kind of like, until they say it in the show, I don't want to know. So I'll probably end up answering me in the comments. I don't really want to know until the show says, but like I said, my immediate thought when she showed up, especially her relationship with Lex, I'm like, Mercy? We'll see. I think I talked about this last season, but also just like Michael Cutlet's as Lex. He plays props to every actor who's ever played Lex, who just plays very different versions of Lex. Because I don't think there's been anyone who's ever played Lex as like scarily as Michael Cutlet's as. Because it's like he's such an imposing, scary Lex because he's angry. Once again, man was locked up for 17 years, so prison does change people. It makes him more angry, and he's been plotting, ready to exact his revenge, and now, you know, all the dominoes are falling, so. But anyway, circling back to the Sam of it all before I went on my tangent, quote-unquote Gretchen admits that she did like Sam. She was like, oh, was that your first time actually being with someone in like 30 years? And he kind of looks away, and she's like, well, I'm kind of glad I was able to give you that before you die. And it's just like, yeah, you're a sick, twisted person for getting this close to me. And he tries to beg her, like, hey, I could get you away from, like, I can protect you. New identity, new life. And she's like, I wish I could believe you, but no one could get away from Lex. So it does seem like there is still some humanity, because she was reluctant to do it because she actually did start liking Sam. What her relationship with Lex must be one of reluctancy, of like, I'm just so in deep with Lex. I've done so much for him over the years. I can't get away. I want to, but there is no escape for me. So, but Sam managed to escape only to get caught again, and they were going to bury him alive. You know, especially when Sam, you know, it's like, yo, you about to go out, talk your shit, was like, oh, at least I got my daughter in my life. You know, hell, he even repaired things with Lucy, the whole cult situation, but then it's like, oh, but you, what about your daughter? What about Elizabeth? And that pissed him off. Once again, it's just like, that man is so angry. Every scene he's in, he's just like seconds away from snapping because he's just bottling it all up. Hell, like him sitting down with Jonathan and Jordan. And once again, they kind of making a point of, yo, maybe your daughter like ran away because she saw you for the psychopath that you are. And he kind of got pissed. And I love that one guy being like, yo, boys, you okay? And then Lex stared him down, and the guy just like sat back. I appreciate you trying to stand up for him, but also, man, that's weak sauce. The fact that you immediately sat down because he's scared to grab out of you. It's like, hey, you try to be, hey, you boys okay? Never mind, I'm gonna go back to sit down at my table. It's like, yeah, just do that. And it's like, oh, man. I appreciate the effort, at least. Would have meant more if you followed through, but still. That's what just makes it, like, good storytelling and good villainy, where it's like, you think you're in the right, but it's, once again, that's the frustrating thing of, like, you're not in the right. You're not a good guy. Yes, once again, it sucks. I mean, once again, if it wasn't Lex going to prison for something he didn't do, once again, we kind of went through this last season of like, do you really want to let Lex Luthor out of prison even though he didn't kill Moxie and that's the thing he went away for? It's, you know, it's not the equivalency of like, oh, we got Al Capone on tax evasion. It's not the same thing, because, you know, it's not, but still, it's just kind of like, we already went through that conundrum last season, and now like hell has been raised on Earth now because he's free. And once again, Lois is now, well, first and foremost, Jordan being to finally find his grandfather and bringing Lois with him, and Otis try to step up to Jordan, and Jordan just like knocked him back, and then Lois proceeded to, you know, punch and hurt Gretchen, doing that herself, because it's understandable, her father's life is in danger, especially because for her, it's like, I am so glad to have him as my father. And it's that thing of, you never know when the last time you're going to see someone, so you never say the things you need to say. So she regrets, like, I might not ever get the chance to say what I need to say to him, that I love him, that he's great, and I'm happy to have him as my father. Also, the whole Superboy of it all coming back to bite Jordan in the butt. Once again, all those photos and videos. Like, I mean, once again, he kind of got chastised for it last season. Now it's coming back because now Lex is aware of you because, like, well, they were just rumors, but now it's like, well, I've seen it. Well, my people have seen it firsthand. Now, when they were in the restaurant, Jordan clenched his fist, but it's like, yeah, you don't want to do anything. Well, it also sucks because he's like, well, I know that Lois has another Superboy helping her out, but he might quickly figure out, he'll probably not figure out that Clark and Superman are the same, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't know, because at no point did he ever say Clark. He always said Superman. So I don't remember if that was something brought up last season. I think he still doesn't know that Clark and Superman are the same person, but he might figure out about Jordan just because of, like, the clenching fist, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Because he's pissed and he's going to hurt you, and it's just like, I think he'll admire some of that spirit of like, oh, it's your mom, you care about her, you love her. It's like he definitely didn't have that relationship with his own mother, so it's going to be interesting to see where all that goes. I also love that flashback when she's pregnant with Jordan and Jonathan, and just like her like telling Clark not to freak out, because she's like, you know, she's like, how many times do I have to tell you that's the whole thing about being in love? Because he's like, yeah, I mean, I can't, you know, I won't die. And she's like, I know, but still, that doesn't make me stop worrying about you. So she's like, so go out there and get the doctor. And he's like, oh, okay. And she grabs him. He's like, where are you going? No, stay. He's like, okay, I'll stay. I'm like, I love that he's just like, which one? You want me to get the doctor? Do you want me to stay? And it's just like, I'm going through it right now. These two little gremlins are like, I'm not doing the twin thing ever again. And I just love that moment. And it just once again, twisting the knife as much as possible. Because all the while this is happening back on Earth, once again, Clark's up in space. I mean, we had picked up right where the season 3 finale had ended, and that, like, them busting around the moon, there's blood everywhere. Like, his cape is torn, shredded. The blood and his cape, like, floating in space. And they're just, like, fighting deeper and deeper in space. And Clark doing everything he can. His face busted up, his suit ripped to pieces, but nothing he does. And I also love that Doomsday is becoming less and less of Bizarro's face. You can see it more of Doomsday's, like more of what you traditionally know of Doomsday. So it's like the like spikes are growing out like where his eyebrows are and stuff. So I'm like, okay, looking more and more like Doomsday. The picture I chose for the watch list video about Superman and Lois, I was like, I didn't even know, like, the scene in particular, I didn't even notice what was in his right hand at the time. Like, not less the trailer I watched did not include that, which, you know, that could easily have been, like, digitally removed. Maybe it was there and I just completely did not notice what was in his right hand. I was just so focused on, like, ooh, look at Doomsday. And then it's like, yeah. But yeah, like, nothing Clark's doing, because Clark ends up pulling off some of his spikes and just stabbing them. It's like they're face to face, like his fire breath versus like Clark's like heat vision, and it's just the clash after clash, and it's not going Clark's way until he gets slammed into another rock, and he's just there and just like losing his focus, because, you know, he's beaten down, he's exhausted, and he's just focusing on Earth, because I guess all he wants to know is like, all he's trying to do is to hear Lois and them. But also I think it's just like, I've got my duty to protect this planet from this thing, but also my family's there. I've got to use that as motivation. So he gets up and just summons everything he's got with his heat vision, but it's still not enough. And Doomsday rips out his heart, drags his body back to Smallville, and presents it to everyone. I think because he's still Bizarro enough underneath all that, like, he didn't go after anyone else. His only job was taking down Superman and making a point of it. And it's just that situation of, it feels like part of me was wondering, like, he wouldn't do anything to Lois because I think maybe some part of him is still enough in there that he's not going to hurt her. It's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't know if that's the correct way to look at it, but in that moment, it's just her just staring at him walking closer, and he just tosses Clark's body, and it's almost, I don't know if some twisted way it's like almost closure, where it's like he never got to go back to his family, so returning Clark's dead body, I mean, it's meant to be a spectacle anyway, but it almost feels like, I don't know. Once again, I don't know if there's any more of the man left inside of the Beast to do something like that. Was that even crossing his mind? Like, could he just left Clark's body? But once again, I'm sure, because all Lex asked for is like, bring me his heart. So it just feels like that might have been a Bizarro move. That might not have been like a Lex order. I don't know. But he presents the heart to Lex. He's like, oh, good job, my friend. And I don't know what it is that, like, Yvonne Chapman's character brought him. It was something, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I wonder, is it going to be like his super suit or something? Like, what is he? I mean, aside from just like, okay, I have Superman's heart. Like, what are you going to do with that? Like, is that going to give you access to Kryptonian blood? You're going to do something with like, Bruno Mannheim did, or what? I don't. I mean, other than a trophy, I don't know if that serves any other purpose. It might be the centerfold of something he's going to do. I just don't know what. But yeah, that devastating moment at the end where like Lois goes over and sees what happened to Clark, and just in that moment, like Jordan and Jonathan coming over, and she's trying to hold them back, and they go over to their dad, and the people of the town seeing them like mourning over Superman's body, and it's just like, oh god, that's so rough, dude. Like I said, I knew it was going to be rough, but all you see at the end is Lois staring at the hotel room that Lex is. Like, she's going to go full, like, you push me too far now. Now I'm going to snap. Like, you want me to be the bad guy? I'll be the bad guy after you, like, threaten my family. You threaten me. Like, you're just trying to destroy my life. It's, like, cool. And that's the thing, like, they were trying to hold Jordan back. I mean, well, even Jonathan agreed with Jordan, being like, yo, we should go after Lex. But it's like, she's like, no, stay away from him. He's dangerous. Especially because he had made that point of, in the flashback, he was like, yo, if you come after me with like that whole recording and try to publicize it, he was like, I'll let the world know about Krypton. And there's plenty of it around that can be used against your husband. But it's like, well, Jordan, as we learned last season, is not as effective. It still is effective against him, but not nearly as effective as it is against Clark. So that could still be used against him, but it won't, like, stop him the way it does Clark. So we'll see what kind of happens from that, where we go from here. I'm so curious to see how this all plays out. Once again, I'm not well versed in comics, so I'm not well versed in the traditional Death of Superman storyline. I know there's that animated movie. I've never seen that. My only version of the Death of Superman I've seen is the Zack Snyder version in the movies. So from BVS and Justice League. That's the only version of that story I've ever seen. So I'm not sure like how. I mean, especially because like in this universe, like Clark's the only superhero really. So like, I'm sure other heroes are involved in the Death of Superman storyline, so it's going to be a very different version on television, I'm sure. But still, I'm excited to see how it plays out. What the end result ends up being. I'm so curious to see how this final season plays out. Obviously, this was a 2-hour premiere, so there's another episode released as well. So I'm excited to check that out and see where everything picks up from there. I'm so bummed because obviously the show got a massive budget cut, so like, some of the stars are not able to be in every episode. That's why we didn't see like a Lana or a Kyle or Sarah or John Henry or Natalie of it all, because it's like everyone's going to be used kind of sporadically. Because I watched an interview between Elizabeth Tulloch and Katie Sackhoff, because she has her podcast where she interviews people. So that conversation kind of talked about that too, which I had no idea. That were kind of like, at least Elizabeth Tulloch was under impression. She's like, yeah, we kind of got cut short because like she was like, I was kind of said we were going to have 7 seasons, but she's trying to be like positive about the situation and just like, hey, we got the time we got, and that's dope. So, and it is kind of sad, but at the same time, I'm excited to see how this ultimately ends up wrapping up. But like I said, still got for the most part, a whole season ahead of us. It's a shorter season. It's only 10 episodes in total, but still, I'm excited to see where this final journey takes us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.